symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? The Job Guys back with you one more time with another big-time Run It Back. That is Nick over there, as always. Ryan, right over here. Hard to believe, dude. 30 years ago this month, the Big Four became the Big Five. King of the Ring was added to the pay-per-view lineup. They toyed around with some stuff before, you know, Tuesday in Texas. They had that hot ticket thing they did. But an actual fifth pay-per-view here with the King of the Ring. Strange pay-per-view, Nick. It's 1993. We have discussed 1993 before. And as we always do, if you're joining us for the very first time on these Run It Back shows, thank you very much for being here. First of all, Nick and I were young teenagers when this pay-per-view came out. So we're going to talk about not just the pay-per-view, but the year surrounding the pay-per-view, transitional time here in the WWF, and kind of the beginning as it started slipping here. So tell us where you were at. I know you were a huge Bret Hart guy. This is the Bret Hart show right here. Where were you at as far as a fan coming off of that dreaded WrestleMania 9?
And, you know, I'm hanging out with my friends more, and the big names are kind of winding down. Hulk Hogan, The Warrior, Ric Flair, Andre the Giant. These guys are all fading to the way. You know, Honky Tonk Man is pretty done at this point. Jake Roberts is on the tail end of his career. You know, it's these big names we grew up with. And Ryan, when I look back on it too, this is not a great year in wrestling. I think it's the first really bad year, isn't it? I mean,
arguably the worst year of all time. Arguably the worst, Nick, because you look at around here,
it's bad.
Without hitting in between, just hit the Big Four. Arguably the worst Royal Rumble of all time. Arguably the worst WrestleMania of all time. Arguably the worst SummerSlam of all time, and probably the worst Survivor Series of all time. This pay-per-view looks like WrestleMania 3 or 17 compared to the rest of the pay-per-views from 1993.
And this is, you know, kind of the new generation, right?
This is it. This is really the takeoff, which is weird about this pay-per-view too, because it is all new generation, guys.
Yeah.
And then Hulk Hogan. We're like, how does he fit in here? But I guess he's kind of passing the torch as we get into.
I wonder how many people they lost because of the new. I mean, because you had people like my father's generation, they saw these guys almost a parallel to the way me and you and maybe see some of the indie scenes today. Yeah. I mean, you think about it, people thought Bret Hart was small.
Right.
I mean, there are programs right now where Bret Hart would be a pretty big dude.
He would look like Hulk Hogan right now fighting in the opening match on Wednesday nights every night.
He would, or Thursday.
He'd be that big. A lot going on behind the scenes. We've talked about it on other shows. If you're watching this, you probably know, but this is when it starts to hit the fan for Vince. On May 14th, he transferred power over to Linda because he is about to get investigated. So on May 14th, he remained the CEO, but all assets were signed for Titan Sports were signed over to Linda just in case the government, you know, tried to take his assets. Oh, I don't have any. They're all under my wife's name. So that's what happened there because of the steroid scandal, because of the Ring Boy scandal and everything going on. This is when you hear Jerry Jarrett came on, and if Vince had to go to jail, Jerry was going to take over the company and all these sorts of things. So this all happened right before.
It was huge, Ryan. I mean, you're talking this eventually leads to the end of Hulkamania in the WWE. This eventually, I mean, and other dudes, I mean, just one off the top of my head, the big boss man, Ray Traylor.
My name's Ray Traylor. I'm Flesh and Bud.
Thought the whole thing was so real. The dude jumped ship to WCW for that reason because he thought
it was done.
WWF at the time was going under.
But one of the big things in the Hogan-Yoko match is they're saying, yeah, Hogan is trimmed down to fight the big man. He's trying to get back in shape to fight the big man. I have the quote here. If I can find it. Where did I put it? Lean and mean, trimmed down and faster than ever before. Yeah, something like that. he's trimmed down for Yoko or get off the gas, Hulk.
Right.
One of the two. So it's just a weird time right now. Bret, that whole situation. What's going to go on here? Apparently, they shot photos for the WWF magazine in Halifax, Nova Scotia, with Hogan and Bret tug of war over the belt. Didn't come to fruition. That's what he thought was going to happen at SummerSlam. If you read Bret's book, not the way it went down whatsoever.
And
Ryan
Hogan
puts over Yoko, and then Hogan's out of here. This was kind of like, you think maybe all right, Bret, here's your, we're getting one back for you here with this pay-per-view because you did such a good job. You've been carrying us. You are our best wrestler. We kind of screwed you on the belt a little bit, so we're giving one to you tonight. Here you go. We're giving. That's kind of the way I always looked at it. Because coming in, we knew he was winning this, right? I mean, there was no question about it.
Oh God, yes. But they do. This is time to push Bret to the moon, and it really starts here. And people forget. I mean, we can all talk about WrestleMania 9. He has a really good rest of the year, man. This guy goes on to have one of the greatest blue cage matches, I think, isn't it? Is it 93 he does that
94 SummerSlam.
94, yeah. I'm sorry, he does.
Yeah.
He has it at 94.
But the run through 94.
Yeah, he becomes the focal point of the WWE, man, after this.
Yep, he really does. Bret takes over. He has an awesome hour-long segment at SummerSlam. The whole thing with his brother starts at Survivor Series. He wins the Royal Rumble. The two matches at WrestleMania 10 are amazing. And he leaves with the belt. SummerSlam is great. I mean, what a year. What a year and a half, really, through Survivor Series 94. And then he gets caught up with Backlund after that. And that sucked. But everything else was great. He was about the only watchable thing. All right, Nick. Well, let's get into it here. I went through the torch a little bit because I watched the first half of this like 2 weeks ago, and I couldn't watch anymore. I had to stop. I thought the first half was awful. Didn't watch the second half until last night, and I liked the second half. I thought the second half was pretty good. Torch readers out of 10 have it at a 7.2 on the Torch poll. 7.2 from the fans of the PW Torch. Wade Keller, the editor of PW Torch. 9.0. He absolutely loved this pay-per-view. 9.0 from Wade Keller. I was shocked when I saw that. This is a phenomenal event. Nearly every aspect of this pay-per-view was excellent. The most important factor when grading an event is the wrestling quality. Bret Hart alone carried the show. Mr. Perfect was good. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. All the way down to the production values for the live event were as good as any sporting event on network television. The announcers were great. Wade absolutely loved this show. So
I would disagree with that.
I completely disagree as well. But yeah, I don't think it's bad. The second half was so much better than the first half.
I wonder when they're weighing this back then, if they're weighing it against wrestling in general or against wrestling in 93. Because if you are weighing it against the other programs, shows, whatever else is out there, WCW, 2 WWE, it probably is one of the better shows of 1993.
Yeah. Well, in the matches, I mean, every one of Bret's matches was pretty good.
Yeah.
I think they were happy that Hogan was done. I think everybody thought immediately the way that match happened that he's out of here. He's done. That made all the internet people happy and the dirt sheet people happy. Right. Good. Get this guy out of here. Let's move on to Bret and other things. Yeah. So there we go. Well, let's get into it, dude. Yeah. Let's jump right in the pay-per-view. You got Vince off the top.
Great opening.
Extravaganza.
I love it,
you
man.
Get all these big words. You get the big Vince words right out of the And I love how,
they pull the pictures come in of this guy versus this guy in the opening round. Yeah. It's a great opening.
They get right into the action, man. Right away. The crowd is nuts. This is in Dayton, Ohio. Of all places, the Nutter Center holds like 6,000 people. So it's a smaller joint. It's packed. Those people are excited to have a pay-per-view, so they were rowdy all night. By far the smallest city they have ever had a pay-per-view at. By far the smallest city. Razor and Bret, right out of the gate. Razor hasn't taken off yet.
No.
He has not won a big feud. He won his very first match at Mania over Bob Backlund. What do you think about this one?
I just wrote down good match for that era, and I wrote right next to it, Bret's just smooth.
Yeah.
Bret, great finish. Bret reversed top rope fall away slam, pinning razor. Bret, just watch him hit those dang turnbuckles. Watch him throw a punch.
Yeah.
You know, just to me, and people can disagree with me, but I don't know how far down you can put him in the ranking without kind of pushing my buttons. As far as in-ring performers, I think he's the greatest. To me, it's him, Savage, and Angle. Those guys are they're beautiful to watch. And it's a good match.
We might have to have that list one of these days. The greatest of all time, because Bret's number of amazing matches he got out of not very good workers, that might put him over the top.
He's amazing.
Bret, they have an angle that runs the rest of the night. Razor stomps on his hand, comes back for his next match. His hand's taped.
We'll
talk about that as we go.
Banged up as we go.
They're doing the Cody. They had everything but Brock Lesnar break his arm.
Yeah.
And this, they were kind of doing the Cody treatment with him here against all odds. Mr. Hughes, Mr. Perfect. The battle of misters. I don't have really anything else to say. I know you were not a fan of this at all. Very quickly, can you sum up your disgust of this?
Fucking thing sucks.
It's Perfect's the problem, kind of, too. Mr. Hughes is terrible, just right off the bat. The guy can't work. But Perfect, he's a heel, Sloke. Everything he does, but I remember people want to cheer
is he
Perfect.
Thinks he's perfect. Yeah. That's not a good guy gimmick.
And Mr. Hughes, he seems to me like, I don't know if it was like an enforcer character, guy
that's
who's
what he usually was.
I don't want to watch him wrestle though. Hughes was jumping into Perfect's moves. I wrote that on there. But finish is terrible. I don't even know why it had to be a DQ. Why couldn't Perfect just beat Hughes?
Right.
Like this match, I'm sorry, this is a real stinker to me. This match was just terrible.
So there were certain things that kept me in the match. Hughes was just funny to me because he's dressed like IRS. He's dressed exactly like a gimmick infringement. And then he wrestles with his sunglasses on the entire time. He's got them like glued. I'm like, are they glued to his head? They don't move. They don't come off. I'm like, well, that's kind of a good move. Well, you can't punch him because then you'll hurt your hand. This guy's smarter than I think. And they had the brain scan debuted in there. That was kind of funny.
How about, did you like the beginning? Perfect throws his towel behind his back at Hughes, and it lands perfectly on Hughes's.
Perfect.
It's perfect, man. It was a great. Yeah. That was the coolest thing about the match to me.
Jim Ross, he obviously got much better down the road. I was never a Jim Ross guy. Bruce Pritchard has mentioned this numerous times, and it stood out to me here big time. Vince and Bruce hated the fact that Jim Ross would always talk about their college football accolades and things like that. Oh, and in this one, he's like, oh, he's a former standout Kansas State Wildcat. Like, this guy's this big, tough guy. He looks like that. He constantly has that grump face. He's got sunglasses on. Well, now I'm thinking about him as a football player. No, he's a big, tough wrestler. It totally took me out, and I understood what Bruce was saying there. It never really bothered me too bad. It did here, though, because of the gimmick. Anyway, so that's it. Perfect moves
wins
on.
By DQ.
Bam Bam Hacksaw. Hacksaw's wearing a singlet in this. I don't ever remember him there. I don't remember him wearing that ever. Heenan tells JR to shut up at one point when he's talking about the NFL. I bet you Vince told him in his ear, tell that guy to shut up. He straight out says it. I got it. It's amazing how much better JR did get in 5 years from now.
He does.
He talks way too fast, and his voice is higher, and it's like way too fast.
Well, that's the NWA style, I think. Sloke a little bit more of the Southern, more.
He's trying to make it like a sport because, his boy, the Cowboy, Bill Watts, was a sports guy. So I don't know anything on this match at all. I mean, come on.
No. I had a question for you. What did people ever see? And again, I get the agility. Bam Bam, though, man. Every time he emerged on the scene, like he was in the tournament in 4, and I'm like, meh. You know,
Yeah.
even when he showed up in WCW during the Monday Night Wars, I'm like, really? Someone brought back Bam Bam?
I never got it either. He moves awesome for a
no
big
doubt
dude.
about that. Yes, he does. But just
I never got it. And
don't-
here's
yeah.
the one thing, I wrote this down. How is this guy ever a good guy?
I don't know either.
1987, when he shows up, he's Hogan's buddy, and he's a
Right.
good guy. He's doing cartwheels and all this. He has flames tattooed on his head. He's got like 13 teeth. Like
Right.
he's got, and he's all,
Oh man.
and flames all over him. Who looked at that and went, yeah, Hulk Hogan's best friend. Yeah, hey. Like, how?
I don't know, man. I just wonder
better here as a bad
you
guy.
saw what I didn't see, man. I just
No.
again, he's agile, but man, and the dude's in some pretty. I mean, they pushed him when he came into WCW, man.
Main evented a WrestleMania. Oh, CM Punk didn't.
He's an idiot.
No,
Bam Bam
dude,
wins with a headbutt.
Yeah, Duggan goes for his 3-point stance and misses and hits the turnbuckle. Duggan
Yeah.
just past his prime, man. It's over, buddy.
Tatanka is our last first round match. Lex is still the narcissist here, which had not gotten over the way they thought it was going to. Tatanka's still undefeated at this point. Lex just posed when he came down. Did you like in the mirror for like 3 minutes?
Yeah,
He's just standing there, and like you didn't even see the mirror at first. You're like, what's he doing? You know,
This
like
was a
he was
big-
like looking at nothing the way they shot it, you know. So like, what's he doing?
I think this was also your biggest first round matchup where you didn't know who was going to win in this tournament because
And
both
there
these
was
guys.
nobody.
I think Tatanka's undefeated at this point, if I'm not
well,
mistaken.
for a while.
And
Yeah.
they just brought the narcissist in, and I don't think he had been pinned at this point
No,
or defeated.
not on TV.
You know,
yeah.
so this is and I really was looking forward to this one. Like, who's going to take this? And of course, they found a way to go out without either one of them
Right.
really taking a loss. You know, Luger's got the loaded forearm. He's got to put a protective.
Put the pad on it. Yeah.
It's so bad.
I read, and you know, seeing things about this, it's kind of like maybe this show. The first half of this match, I'm like, I can't believe how bad this is bad. And then it picked up at one point, and I'm like, I can't
wrote
believe
that.
this is actually decent.
I can't believe you said. I wrote the written down. Match is slow, but fine for asking Luger and Tatanka to go 15 minutes. I mean, you're
the
asking
near falls and stuff. I didn't
Yeah.
know Luger could move that
I mean,
quick.
either.
Man.
You're asking two guys who really aren't 15-minute dudes in
Right.
that era to do a match like, and they did. I thought, honest to God, I thought it was the second, or maybe even the most interesting first round match as far as like shocking value of what the guys did. Man, they put on a good show.
Bret and Perfect do an interview together in the back. This is pretty cool. They do the callbacks to SummerSlam 1991, which you didn't really see them do a lot of stuff like that. You know, they're talking about how Perfect owes him, and then they start fighting. My dad could beat up your dad, whatever.
Perfect. He goes to shake. Perfect pulls his hand away like a heel.
Yep.
You know, everything he does is heelish, man.
And he
gets
says
offended.
he'll do whatever to win.
And he gets offended when Bret says, you know, like kind of I don't, you know, who he would rather face.
Yeah.
Perfect or Hughes, you know, everything Perfect does is heelish. It's why the gimmick, as much as we, you know, I think we wanted to cheer him as a face, but you were just like, this doesn't work.
Well, and going back to that time, I mean, it darn near right away didn't work for me. And I was the biggest, I didn't know you at this point. So I was the biggest Mr. Perfect fan that I knew at this point.
I love it.
And then when they brought him back, I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. And I mean, it was like 3 weeks. And guy's a bad guy. He can't be a good guy. He does the Rock Hogan thing here. Two Faces going at it. So he starts playing the heel in this match. Really good match. A lot of people compare it to the SummerSlam 91 match.
I think it's a great match. I mean, for especially, again, don't compare it against what you're seeing in today's ring.
Right.
Compare it against 1993. It's a really good match.
Well, and he's, you know, Bret isn't a high fly. I mean, he's a mat wrestler, technical kind of guy, you know. So,
Yeah.
like, yeah, you can't compare his stuff to today where good match means flying around and whatever. Bret's hand is taped, as we mentioned, so they are making this against all odds. Kurt kind of goes the heel, lets him through the ropes at one point to let him back in the ring, and as soon as he ducks his head in, Kurt kicks him, heel move.
I wrote Kurt was pulling hair, poking eyes, cheap shot, low blow at the end. He is wrestling as a heel. I mean, I can't emphasize it more.
Chopping a lot in this match, and it was interesting to hear massive, loud chops without any woos afterward. It wouldn't take too long. Another couple years, and then it doesn't matter where you're at, anywhere in the world. If somebody chops somebody, you're going to hear woo afterward. No woos there. So you would hear, oh, because it was popping so loud. You had I think maybe the very first slingshot of Bret pushing the ropes out and having him fly to the guardrail. That became like a Bret signature thing. I think it might have been the first time there, and then he landed like in a cooler, so now his legs hurt, so now he's limping for the rest of the night. But there was a part, too, goes for the sharpshooter. He blocks it by grabbing the busted fingers, and then he stomps on him, and Heenan says, oh, he remembers what I taught him. He's still using my psychology. Like, there it is. That was awesome, and then cool. Reverses the small package to get the win. Great match.
Bad.
Do you think
his shoulders off?
He kicked out. Bad, man. Only Hogan ever kicked out right at 3. Yeah, he kicks out at like 2.5.
Yeah, he does. It's a bad pit, but the match is good, man. Yeah. And you knew they just didn't want to make anything of it because this is all about Bret. This is Bret, not a controversial win over Perfect. This is about Bret has now beat 2 guys, 2 tough matches, and he's very injured.
Yep. We have a Hogan interview right after this. Mean Gene says, perhaps the greatest hero in the history of the planet. I thought that was funny.
I love that Hogan thinks Yoko was in on Pearl Harbor.
Oh, well, I mean, there's so much of that.
Brothers, brother.
I like how Hogan thinks we're like in a war still with Japan.
Yeah. There's no water here. No surprise attacks.
No sneak attacks.
They list off stats at this 5-time, I wrote it down, WWF champion, held it the most of the time since 84. Only about 6 to 7 other guys have touched the belt since Hogan has entered the WWE or WWF at the time. So, they are pushing that this guy is the top dude. This guy is the unbeatable guy. That Yokozuna is almost the underdog going in against Hulk Hogan.
This whole show, and we'll get into it more as this Hogan-Yoko match goes, they're so over the top with everything, like pushing Bret. Oh, he's got to have a busted knee and broken fingers and this and the Bam Bam didn't have to fight 3 matches, and then the Hogan thing too. They go so overboard naming his accolades, and then at the end the Hulkamania's dead stuff. But yeah, it was weird to me when they announced Yoko. They announced him from the Polynesian Islands. Did you notice that?
I did not catch that.
Yeah, they call it from the Polynesian Islands. I'm like, I'm pretty sure they got a Japanese flag right there. I'm seeing him wave it. I don't know what's going on. But Ross immediately says the first thing out of his mouth, lots of foreign photographers here. And then they just start showing every camera guy everywhere. Once again, so over the top. Like anybody with a brain, not 13 years old like me, would have went, well, something's going to happen with one of these cameramen. It was just so obvious. It's
like when they set a Christmas gift up in the ring now. That's human size. He's like, someone's probably.
Yeah, I wonder who's in there.
A
Hogan chant breaks out, and again, this is a place.
I know it's not packed. People were still cheering him, man. I know people want to rewrite history.
Yoko's doing his ceremony, and the Hogan chant breaks out. I mean, they wanted him. His music hits. They go crazy. That's when they do, look how lean and mean he is. He's trimmed down. I'm like, yeah, or they told him get off the gas. One of the two. It's one of, I can't remember.
This is where the power lies.
Multiple slams. Let's get into that. Once again, the overboard. Hogan threw the book at this guy, and he couldn't do any of it.
Right. Oh, no, Hogan never puts anyone over, though.
Right. We'll
Never
talk
has-
about the match a little bit, Nick. It's a classic Hogan match. He's getting beat up
It's
pretty
fine.
much the entire
Yeah,
time.
it's
the
just
only
Hogan.
difference is this time when he hulks up and comes back, none of his stuff works.
Huge. Ryan, this guy, 3 slam attempts. He does not slam Yokozuna in this match. Yokozuna eats 3 big boots. 3 big boots.
Finally goes down on the third.
What's the move that beat Andre the Giant?
Leg
The
drop.
leg drop. What didn't beat Yokozuna?
Kicked out of the leg drop.
Brothers, bro.
I couldn't believe it. Yoko destroys this guy.
Yeah.
Like Hogan, I mean, if he has creative control, I know people can say, well, he got hit with the flash photography, the fire.
Right.
You look up online or you look up in a record book, you know what it says? Yokozuna
pins.
Hulk Hogan. It doesn't
And
say,
how did he beat him? With Hogan's own move. He beat him with a
own
leg drop.
move.
Game.
Here's the thing.
Huge
And yet
push
you
for
can
Yoko.
say, well, Hogan only lost because the camera guy got up there, flash goes in his face, burned him, got beat.
Okay.
But they also told you in that match that if it weren't for the fire, that match may still be going today, 30 years later, because they told you Hogan couldn't beat Yoko.
He threw,
He
I mean,
couldn't.
more than we have ever seen, right? We have
3
seen him slam
clotheslines, 3 boots, shoulder
Bundy.
block, and Hogan went flying backwards.
Bundy, Kamala, the man that couldn't be slammed, Stud, the miracle, Andre. You know, he has slammed all these dudes. Can't slam Yoko.
Nope. Kicked out.
The
Got beat
big
by his
boot
own move. Then
dropped.
after that, kicked his butt afterward, left
He
him
did.
laying.
And how many dudes have went down from 1 big boot to set up the leg?
Oh, yeah.
He couldn't drop him with 3.
No.
I mean, Hogan puts this guy over.
Mhm.
Contrary to rewriting history, this
Yes.
is Yokozuna's biggest win of his
Yeah.
career.
And he leaves him laying. Then Bonsai drops him. They're showing kids in the crowd. The one little kid had a wrestling
yeah.
buddy over his shoulder, and he's just can't believe what's happening. And they are yelling. And not just right after the match. They go to a commercial or an interview, come back, and they're like, is Hulkamania dead? Has Yoko killed Hulkamania? And it's not just Bobby Heenan. It's Jim Ross and Macho Man
And
going,
Macho Man.
has he killed it? I don't know, Jim. I don't know. All right, now we got another interview. It's HBK. He has just won the IC belt back from Marty Jannetty at a house show. I only bring this up because it's important because there's a dude standing there with him who apparently
Who was
showed up out of
at
nowhere.
the house show.
And helped him win the belt at the house show, and we finally get the name, Nick. So this is kind of like a hidden gem thing that I don't think a lot of people
Right.
realize. This is where we're introduced to Diesel.
Big Daddy Cool comes in, and not to mention, what is Sean drop on there? Hogan the Dinosaur lost.
I think we can agree that Hulk Hogan is not the caliber of superstar that Shawn Michaels
please,
is. I mean,
Michaels,
come on.
give me
The
a
guy
break.
is a dinosaur, and Yokozuna gobbled him up.
You don't really hear anybody call him that before
Nothing like
that. Shawn Michaels pretty much says he's better than Hogan, and Hogan's a dinosaur. Again, reestablishing time
Yes.
is changing. New generation coming
New
in.
generation. This is it. Old is out, in with the new. Oh, and my new big guy behind me to replace Hogan.
Who looks pretty convincing back there.
Yep. And then they come out, and this is when they come back, and once again, Jim Ross is like, Hulkamania may be dead.
Still, I wrote that on here.
Still
Still
going.
talking about Hogan during the 8-man tag with the Guns, Steiners, Money Inc., and Head Shrinkers.
Yoko's in the back to do an interview. There's photogs all over the place again. Jack Tunney is back there. And Jack Tunney goes, I want to congratulate Yokozuna on winning the WWE Championship. I'm like, were you not watching the match, you dummy? He says nothing about it. There's cameramen 2 feet from them. I'm like, You might want to talk to the dudes flashing in your face. Something may have happened here. No mention. Again, Tony doesn't seem to care.
Fuji reiterates Hogan is finished.
Yeah. Once again, what Jack Tunney did was bogus. IC title.
Match.
Anything.
Not good. I thought it was a stinker of a match. Sean takes a good bump when Crush drops him on the ropes. I mean, that was pretty sweet.
Nearly decapitated.
Yeah. The two doink thing, I don't know. Sean wins. I'm sorry. I don't like Crush, dude. I didn't like it. The only time me and you are the only two people that like Crush when no one else likes Crush. We liked him when he fought Savage at WrestleMania 10. Other than that, I thought he, and again, it wasn't him, obviously. I didn't like him in Demolition because as a young kid,
right,
he's ruined Demolition for me. I thought he was really a weak addition to the NWO.
It's awful, man.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows that's Bryan Adams.
That's right? Bryan Adams. Of course it is. Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, we all know.
I just talked to him last week. Bryan Adams
the summer of 69 guy?
Where's Robin Hood at?
Yeah, I don't know what the hell. But yeah, I don't know, man. This match but again, it's a win for Sean. Good to have a match in the card. Wish the tag titles went.
I'll talk about it more later. When I didn't even know this match was on the card. And for the first 2 or 3 minutes of it, I was looking at my phone and then I looked up. I'm going to say the opposite. I think this match is good. I think it's really good. And I'll say more about it later. I thought Crush could have been good a year previous. And then by now it was like, no, he has no charisma whatsoever. I just kept thinking also about the promos, and I wish I could find it, of Michaels calling him Pineapple Head all the time. And he's like, you called me Pineapple Head, brah. Yeah, brah. Call me Pineapple Head. Like, who calls it? What is he, 9 years old? Like, who calls somebody that? This put Michaels over for me. He's throwing Michaels all over the ring like it's nothing, McMahon. I mean, he's just lifting him up and launching him, and not just like dropping him, throwing him to the other side of the ring. I mean, launching this guy, and Michaels is just a bouncing machine in this match.
I just didn't think it flowed very well. I didn't think it was work. Crush is, I'm sorry, he's not. And I'm not an in-ring guy, but there's only so much I can. Crush is not good in that ring.
And the two doinks come down, and then there's a super kick from behind, and then the match is just over.
The ending I thought was kind of cool. The super kick from behind, his head goes into the turnbuckle, and then Sean, that's kind of cool.
When he said double doink, I could only think of one thing when he said double doink. I'm thinking about Al Michaels.
It looks like it bounced off the crossbar as well.
Oh, my goodness. The Bears' season's going to end on a double doink.
Main event time. We are finally there. Bret comes limping out. He's fighting Bam Bam because of the double count out. There is no what was I saying? He got a bye into the final.
And announcers do a good, I'll give them that. They do a good job of making sure we remember that. Bam Bam has fought once. It was a long time ago. And it was also a quick match with Duggan. Right. I think it was only 4 or 5 minutes long, if that. Bret has now fought 2 guys, and one of them, that perfect match was a good 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, they were like, he's fought 35 minutes or whatever it was. Heenan says there can't be a count out, and then like later there's almost a count out. Bret gets slammed outside. Luna hits Bret with a chair.
It was great, I thought, up until Luna. The match was awesome, I thought, up until Luna.
Yeah, and a lot of people do like this match. They get him back in. Bam gets up on top. Headbutt. 1, 2, 3. Hinge Bret. Then Hebner comes out. No, brother, can't end like that. Then they tell the Fink that the match is reversed. No, the match isn't reversed. Then they restart it. It's all kind of confusing.
This is what I don't get, Ryan. Like, Bam Bam wins. Now, a ref's going to come so he say Bam Bam cheated to win. Well, then shouldn't it be a DQ? Bret Hart wins then?
Right.
I just didn't, I'm sure I didn't care as a kid because you didn't think about these things in 93. But from like right now, I'm like, how is this the best way to go about this match?
Why even do any of that? It made no sense. Just let Bret win.
I thought Bret should kick out. I forget, and this is what I forget too. Chair shots were lethal back then, Ryan. Remember, you didn't get hit. Today, you get hit with a nuclear weapon, and you're still kicking out
every night.
And back then, so I forgot about this end when Bam Bam hit the thing off the top rope, and I was like, wow, Bret's good. This is a good kick out. I was like, this is crazy. And the 1, 2, 3, I'm like, what the hell just happened? I didn't remember that finish.
I didn't either. I did remember there was a wonky finish. I didn't remember what it was. But yeah, and then to do the thing where the Fink tells the crowd the decision has been reversed. Oh, wait, no, I was mistaken. The match continues.
Right.
Like, why are we even playing with the emotions like that? You've already got all the other stuff. The guy's limping. He gets hit with a chair. He's got a broken hand. He's got all this stuff. Like,
I thought Bret, all he had to do was win that match, Ryan. All he had to do is just put on a good match, wrestle for 10 or 15 minutes, have Bret beat Bam Bam. That's it. It's all you had to do.
And he does win eventually. He wins with a victory roll. That's 3 different matches, won 3 different ways. None of them were the sharpshooter. Yeah, Savage jumps in there, and I was like, okay, was that supposed to be put him over? Oh, Savage is putting over Bret, or was Savage just stealing his spotlight? Like, what's he doing? I don't know. So they rush Bret out of there. They go to give him the crown. He gets the crown, and as soon as he gets it, here comes Jerry Lawler. Makes sense. I'm the real king. He had just gotten here a month or 2 before. He showed up, calls him the Burger King. Burger King chant breaks out, and then Lawler just beats the junk out of him, and they go off the air. And that's how it ends. Bret gets pounded again.
I thought the ending really kind of hurt Bret. Like I did too. Like the last match, he doesn't win outright, and then Lawler leaves him laying.
Yeah.
And also to me, this is where one of the things, we talk about the eras, having the internet kind of, look as a benefit this way, where people know who dudes are coming in from Japan or from Impact or from AEW or ROH back when it was here. To me, I'm sorry, man. In 1993, when I saw Jerry Lawler, you got to be freaking kidding me. This guy is going to fight Bret freaking Hart. I'm like, this is a joke. My dad could fight Jerry. I didn't know. And that was my mistake. I say that out.
But
Jerry
it wasn't,
Lawler,
though. How were you going to watch him?
I had no, this guy just looked like a joke to me, dude.
I don't know that he looked like a joke, but he wasn't on Bret's level to me at all.
No.
Because I didn't know who he was.
I didn't know anything about him.
Yeah, and he leaves him laying. And I do remember watching this, again, as a massive Bret fan. I'm like, yeah, well, he won all his matches, but then he just keeps getting pounded. Like, and then that kind of, it took it down for me a little bit. It definitely did. All right, so if you never watched one of these Run It Back shows, we do the ultimate run back here at the end. We've got a couple categories that we run through, what the best and worst of the evening, and we're going to get to it right now. The best line of the night. Now, normally, these are filled with Bobby Heenan lines or Jesse Ventura. Heenan was not exactly on his game at this pay-per-view. He had a few.
I still found some.
There were some, no doubt, but it wasn't like it wasn't Heenan's best night. What do you got for the line of the night?
The Hulkamania is dead line is pretty hard not to like. It sticks in your mind as the line of the night.
Yeah.
So I would have to say, if you say anything as the most memorable, the immovable, irresistible force, immovable object, that's the move he beat Hogan or Andre. Yeah. In comparison of that, it's gotta be Hulkamania is dead, because it was real this time. It is dead in the WWE.
Yeah.
But I also like, if you don't mind me saying, I bet Bret Hart is the kind of guy that checks into a hotel and asks for a wake-up call at 1:23 in the morning, and they call and say it's 1, 2, 3, and he kicks out of bed. Bobby Heenan, I guess there were so many kickouts. I like that. Bobby Heenan, remember, a friend in need is a pest.
Is a pest, yes. That one stood out to me for sure. That one stood out for me. There was one, and maybe it's funny. It depends on the way I took it. He said something about Mr. Perfect pulling hair, and Macho said, "Hey, I'm no stranger to pulling hair." Now I took that a different way than
Oh, yeah.
the way he said it. He goes,
He's no stranger to closets either.
He goes, "Hey, I'm no stranger to pulling hair."
He's affectionate.
Jesus.
And I was like, "Oh,
Oh, good thing the internet's not alive back then. Buddy.
Yeah,
so, you're lucky.
So that one stood out, but so maybe funny. The line of the night to me is what you said. Hulk Hogan isn't a caliber superstar as Shawn Michaels. The guy's a dinosaur. That's the line of the night to me. And Yoko gobbled him up. This is Shawn Michaels.
And it's a great line for Shawn Michaels, who turns out to have a freaking generation of great lines.
Yeah, this dude, to me, at this point, yeah, he's the IC champ, and he had the belt for this is his second reign, and he had it for, I don't remember, like 6 months before that. Well, who the heck is he to say that about Hulk Hogan?
A cocky
and
SOB.
Now, well, and you know that line was fed to him.
Sure.
Hogan's gone, so now we're going to bury him on the way out. And that's what stood out to me. I'm like, wow, okay, these are our guys now. Shawn, Bret, Luger.
Yoko.
I couldn't believe that. I didn't remember that. I about jumped out of my chair when he said that. There you go. Funniest.
Hogan trying to slam him. Funniest if you want. Hogan trying to slam freaking Yoko. Triple A couldn't pick up Yoko. Bobby does. Come on, he does have some zingers, man. That's probably not. But my funniest, man, it's got to be the towel throw with Perfect, man. I had to rewind that. Yeah, because it's like, are you freaking kidding me, Mr. Perfect, folks? If you get a second, I mean, it takes 2 seconds. He does, the usual towel throw behind his back and grabs it himself. This time he spun around, threw it at Hughes. It lands perfectly on Hughes' shoulder. I was dying laughing, man.
It's pretty good. My funniest moment of the night is also Perfect, and it's also a personal. I mean, it's my funniest moment, and I kind of hinted at that earlier in the night too. Perfect when he gets pinned, rolls out of the ring, and he's screaming, and he goes, "Ref, learn how to count. That's bogus. That's bogus." Screams it twice at him, and because of Sid Justice, what Jack Tunney, what you did was bogus.
Bogus.
The most bogus thing you've ever pulled off. So, and we say that all the time. If you watch our show, we use that as a drop all the time. To me, again, not seeing this in a million years, it was funny. What has aged, Nick, the best from this show? What has aged the best now 30 years later?
Bret Hart. To me, just Bret Hart. Bret Hart's what we know he can do, what you see him do. This is just a big push for Bret Hart. I think you could put Bret Hart in today. There are very few wrestlers, I think, from that era who could still go in today's wrestling. And I think
Hart, Daniel Bryan. How about that? Kurt Angle is the one everybody. I mean, how good would those be?
I mean, just any Bret Hart. Line the names up that you could watch. Bret Hart, AJ Styles.
Yeah.
Would you want to see that match? I mean, Bret Hart, Seth Rollins. I mean, Bret Hart, Roman Reigns.
Everybody.
And if you think Bret Hart, Roman Reigns, go watch Bret Hart and Diesel. Especially, I mean, they have one. I think it's that Survivor Series.
Survivor Series 95. It's awesome.
It's freaking great. Bret Hart brings the best out of everybody. And I think Bret Hart, like a fine wine, his matches, they're awesome. They age the best.
So I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to say Crush throwing HBK around aged the best. Because I would have to go back and somebody's going to say, oh no, on the Raw on May 13th, 2000. Somebody's going to come up with some other match. And he had the Jannetty match at the Royal Rumble. But is this the match that HBK became HBK? This guy is a selling machine in this match against a guy who's twice his size. He is getting thrown all over the place in this. Well, in the other way around, too. Michaels is making Crush look like $1 million out here. Crush!
Love him or hate him, Michaels makes people look like $1 million. He does.
Yeah, go watch WrestleMania 25. So, what's aged the worst, Nick?
The commentary on the gimmick, like
stereotypes.
How do I say this? Like
the stereotypes.
Yep, you can't. I mean, you can't go back and watch the Tatanka match, man, and have the volume up loud enough for the neighbors to hear.
Right.
Like, I mean,
put the headphones on. I have that too, but since we say that like literally every
time,
show,
yeah.
I
got one more I could do with it too.
I have just the tournament itself.
I was gonna say that, Ryan.
Yeah, you knew Bret was gonna win. We did, little kids. We knew Bret was gonna win this thing, which it turned out good because his matches were all very, very good. But I was just like, Ryan, I knew that was gonna happen.
I'm a guy that, and I don't know why, I love tournaments. And I've told you this before. I'm always like tournament.
Right. Because you love WrestleMania 4. You're like,
I do.
Yeah.
But so many of them are just not good.
Right.
The majority of tournaments are not good. I don't know how, but they're not good. And I don't mean because of, tournaments stink and whatnot like that. Just the way they end up unfolding, man.
You got to come up with all these different finishes and stuff, and they kind of rush through them. You always got to have one that's a double count out or something.
And I think they could be better too. Yeah, there's always the heel getting this bye advantage, and I think they also, WrestleMania 4, we hadn't seen that since, really to me, since Wrestle Classic, the Tournament Savage one.
Right, not on TV anyway.
If you keep them very limited and I'm talking years, every one a decade or something, they can become very special, prestigious events. It seems though, once the tournament, these start going, we're getting them all the time, man.
Right.
There's just so many tournaments, and
then this became once a year. So,
yeah.
What is the most rewatchable scene for you?
I cannot believe Hogan just gets pinned. Like I could not believe he goes out like this.
Got hit in the face with fire, but
I know. To me, Yoko holding the belt after he's beat Hogan, Hulkamania dead, like it takes me back to like, this is when you watch it today, you're almost, this is it, man. This is the end, really, of Hulkamania in the WWE. We won't see this again for almost another decade.
Right. Mine is the Bret Perfect match again, the double suplex, where they both fly over the top rope. I don't know that I had ever seen that before. In 1993, Bret goes to suplex Perfect. He goes over. Bret goes over with him, so they both crash out onto the floor. That is the most rewatchable thing for me. Moment of the night, I'm with you. The moment of the night is Hogan.
Yes.
No doubt. Hulk Hogan, the
most rewatchable, and
over the camera flash. He gets hit with his own move. The whole carrying Hulk Hogan out of there. That's the moment of the night to me.
Watching just him not be able to slam him, he slammed everybody. Stud wasn't.
Eventually, he got him. Even, Andre at the beginning, he fell back on him, but at the end, Hogan got him.
And I looked into that too, Ryan. That's so big because it really does set up the USS Intrepid, man, with Luger. Like, again, not only is Hogan putting Yoko over right here, how big is Luger's slam now? Hogan couldn't slam this dude.
Yep.
They
keep saying that about Crush, too. I bet you he could slam Yoko. They keep putting this slam over. They knew what they were doing. All these people that are like, oh, this was a last-second thing. This whole show sets up that USS Intrepid, dude.
Yes, it does.
I don't know when they came up with that, but it totally is set up. Everything they say And you don't realize it again until 30
Hogan
years
doesn't
later
work
you
with
watch
people,
it.
brother.
No, not at all, brother.
Brother.
Worst match, the match of the night. It's the perfect in Bret.
Perfect
Yeah.
in Bret.
We don't need to go any further than that.
Worst.
Some people do like the Bam Bam Bret match, but worst match of the night. What would you
eight-man tag.
Yeah.
The 8-man
just because
tag.
why? It means nothing.
It's a terrible, and 3 of the 8 guys don't get in the ring.
Right.
They don't even wrestle.
Right. You're right. Yeah, that whole it was just what's going on here.
The 8-man tag
All right.
is pointless.
You got a hot take from this one. One that Stephen A. Smith, say something crazy. What do you got for a hot one?
This is it. Hogan's last WWF match for 10 years, letting Hogan go, though, without Hogan leaving, right? I don't think the Monday Night Wars heat up like they did.
Oh, heck no.
This is the moment. Like, this is huge. This is transitional because Hogan's going to go, and he's going to go to WCW, his last match. And like we've been talking about, hottest takeaway, this puts us on the track for this summer, the summer of Luger and Yoko. He puts both. I cannot help emphasize that because I don't think we always hear the anti-Hogan, you know, and if you don't like him, you don't like him. He puts over 2 guys on this pay-per-view, man. 2 dudes.
Yep. At the very least, one massively.
One massive. And then when Luger does slam him, Hogan couldn't do it.
Right. So I got another one. And this is the last hurrah for Mr. Perfect. And we've always said, and I don't think we're out of turn, but this run is terrible. And really, this is probably the only hurrah for Mr. Perfect during this run. And it comes in a random, non-advertised match that turned out to be a great match. He does not work as a good guy. The run stunk. And they kept trying to they'd put him against people like I'm the stunk. But the Luger one, it's the narcissist is against the guy who thinks he's perfect. Yeah, that'll work. No, because
it's the same thing with Shawn.
Exactly.
It's 2 narcissists.
That's all he did, and it didn't work, man.
Nope.
And
You're
so,
right, it didn't.
And then the Flair thing, they barely even fought, and Flair leaves. So it just was bad. So this was, to me, the only hurrah. For life. Just a couple of more here. Nitpick. Do you got something, man?
Why weren't the tag? Yeah. Why weren't the tag? Why was that not a tag title match?
Yeah. Why? Just get more people on the card.
This card could have went up a notch on the ranking scale if it just would have had a decent. I'm not even saying 10-minute.
The only thing I can think of there. The only thing I can think of, because I read like every torch between WrestleMania and now, and then a couple afterward, the belts changed. Obviously, the IC title changed at a house show. These tag titles switched 2 times at house shows because house show attendance was in the toilet unless Hogan was there. And even with Hogan there, they weren't getting very many people. So I think they were trying to drive house show business because all these belts kept changing on those shows. So they'll come to your town. You never know what's going to happen. That's the only thing. But yeah, that match was stupid.
I had one more on Savage.
Shut up.
As the Tatanka versus Luger match is in the last minute, Heenan asked Savage what it was like in tournament matches like this. Savage responds by stating he has never been in a tournament match where time was such a factor. Dude, you were in the 2 biggest tournaments to this point. You won both of them. I don't understand. Like, why did you would have thought they went the other way? They should have used his tournament history when he was commenting on this match.
Well, apparently they tried to, and he was like, "No, brother, I've never been there.
No, I've never fought a tournament where anything's been on the line other than the WWE title."
Yeah, other than WrestleMania 4.
Yeah, Wrestle Classic.
Well, and he won the very first King of the Ring, I think, too, didn't he?
I thought.
He won one of them, man. The non-televised.
He's 3-0 in tournaments.
What an idiot! That guy does everything great except commentate.
Except announcing.
He is awful.
And Ryan, again, not making fun of him. He is on my Mount Rushmore of four, man. I love the freaking guy.
He's on my 4.
He can't announce.
Oh, no,
man, he's awful.
He's bad. Okay, this is probably obvious. Who won the night?
Yoko.
Bret Hart.
I got Yoko.
Yoko won the night.
Yoko.
Really?
I just think the ending took away from Bret. The Bam Bam finish, he should have just beat Bam Bam clean. And then we leave with Bret laying. Like, Bret is laid out by an announcer. Yoko destroys Hulkamania. He can't be slammed. He beats Hogan with his own move, man.
Did you take him seriously back then, though? Even after all that, I still really didn't.
It was hard for me, Ryan, because I was just wrestling. This is my least I had been interested in wrestling since I got into wrestling around 85, 86. I was
still in it. I thought it stunk, but I was still like gung ho.
I saw Yoko, like, okay, he's the champ. He ain't Andre. Right. Like, I'm looking at him like that, okay.
Well, I don't know what there was something about him I didn't take seriously, even after all that. And then 2 weeks later, he gets slammed. And then I just figured, and granted, who won this night, not the next 3 months, but they immediately made you think Luger was going to beat him. And I just never... There was something about him that I did.
It just stunk because then he didn't beat Luger either.
Right.
He didn't
really beat anybody.
No. He beat The Undertaker with about 55 guys helping him.
Right.
And then when they had their rematch, he lost the belt and the Taker freaking murdered him.
Right.
And Bret Hart beats him at WrestleMania 10.
Right. And then he's done. Yeah. I'll look at it two ways. This was the kickstart, I think, of the year of Bret. I kind of take that away more. But yeah, this is the end. This is it. And Hulk Hogan didn't go out on top like at WrestleMania 8, like he was supposed to, out with the Warrior. Hey, we did it. Yeah, okay, whatever. No, he goes out getting carried out of there with his face lit up.
Or another way to say it is he put someone over.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do that.
No, never. He's never put over anybody before Goldberg.
Warrior.
Yeah, Ultimate Warrior. Yeah, nobody, dude. The Rock, Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar. There's something skipping over here. What's going on?
How many times has Sting beat? Hogan beat
Billy
Sting.
Kidman. Yes, Sting. Nick, appreciate it. Fun to look back 30 years. Unbelievable.
How time flies, man.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't. When I watched it again, it took me right back. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. Please tell us your thoughts in these comments on YouTube if you could. That would be helpful. And share.
I'd love to hear what people were thinking when they saw King of the Ring. Like,
share it on social
where were
media.
you, man?
Job guys out.
Pleasure's all yours, Bucky boys.